Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is our 2016 Honda. It's the wife's car. She's now got very close to 300,000 kilometers on it. When I say very close, it's like 299, 372 I think when I pulled it in the garage here. And literally we have not put very many parts into this car. I had to buy one back caliper for it. We've done the pads and rotors a couple times, but 300,000 kilometers, I don't really factor that in. I mean, that's pretty minor maintenance. But now we noticed when you're driving down twisty turny roads and when you go for long highway drives, it has a bit of a roar in the front end. So we've got two new wheel bearings that we're going to install into it today and show you how to do that. But there actually isn't any play in any of the bearings yet. Everything felt tight with the wheel on the car, so we're kind of just doing this as to relieve the annoyance of the noise. But anyway, we've put two new back shocks in the car. So far since we done that, the tire wear seems to be much better than it was. I complained about the tire wear of this car many times, but I said it's possible where we never had it apart that the rear shock might have been blown for a long time. So anyway, we did two back shocks, one caliper, and now we're doing front wheel bearings. We did not do any control arm bushings, no tie rods, nothing in the front end of this car other than the wheel bearings here today. So to get this apart, caliper got to come off. We're going to take the rotor off. We got to extract this whole hub out of here. So our axle nut has to come off. Tie rod got to come off. We're going to pop the lower ball joint. And then of course our strut bolt here in the back. Once we get the lower ball joint popped, we'll be able to drop it down and slip it out of there. And once we get it out, then we use the old trusty homemade press here and we'll press the new ones in. So we got the caliper tied up. We're just going to carry on here and get this a little bit more apart, and we'll show you what it looks like once we get there. Alright guys, so we got our tie rod off. That was a 19. Cotter pin was kind of seized in there, but I managed to get it out. Down here it's a slip cotter pin on the ball joint, and you're not able to get the nut off until you pop it, but the nut is also a 19. And that took quite a bit of force to get it to turn. I actually ended up booting a wrench with my foot to get it to break free. And for the axle nut, we got a 36 mil is what's going to take our axle nut off. So we're going to get that rotor off, that axle nut, and then our strut bolt. And then we got to get out the wire for our ABS and wheel speed sensor. So this ABS wire, you gotta pop this one clip, open this up, get in here at this plug-in, and it's a bit of a horse show to get this all apart because it's just crazy the way they design these. But anyway, that's done. The tie rod, we just give that a couple good smacks with a good old power fist. Same as in here, we give it a couple hard smacks. We stuck a pry bar in through here underneath where the back bushing is. And we get this freed up. I can't do it by hand, but when we get the bar in, this ball joint's popped. The strut has already started to move there, so hopefully that'll slip off easy and we'll soon be pressing. So we got our spindle knocked out here. Then you're going to have to look really closely because this is very hard to see, but this is your lock ring to hold your bearing in after you press it. And you need to first remove this before you can press the old one out. So it's got these notches into it. You can just take a flathead screwdriver, set it in the notch like so, and hit it with a hammer. So we got that done. Now we got the bearing over here in our press, and we're going to see what happens. Put some pressure to her. You definitely got some pressure there. It still hasn't moved.
That takes a lot. A lot. Anything less than 20 ton be looking for that.
There she goes. That's the noise we want to hear. Oh, I think you're going to still need that.
Huh?
I think you're still going to need that.
Should go.
Yeah, I think it blew. No, it didn't blow the rotor apart.
I think just took a drop.
That was actually pretty sharp in the ears, that one.
It's halfway out. Should be nothing. Oh, I guess we're not in the center anymore. Adjust it. Straight. Probably out.
No, not quite. There she is.
This piece may turn out first. That's in there tight.
So there she is, all ripped apart, and after all the struggle of fishing that ABS wire out of there, it ends up that the style press that I have doesn't have a slot cut to allow the sensor to slip by. So the sensor's right in the way of the bearing, which ends up you have to remove the sensor or you end up destroying it when you press it out. So when I went to remove my sensor, it didn't work. It broke off. It was all rusted and corroded. Stuck in there really bad, actually. So what you want to do in that situation is when you get it out, you got to clean this hole out really good with basically a drill bit that just fits in there nicely. And you'll see when you drill that the old rust and gunk will come out of it. And then we're going to spray it up with some lube, and when we put the sensor in, we'll use some bearing grease or something. But for me, this top bolt twisted off, which, you know, nobody wants to deal with that. But what I ended up doing is I took my grinder and I ground the head of it nice and flat, and I started with a small bit, and I've dealt with this many times. As you can see, pretty precision with the, you know, the old DeWalt hand drill there. But we got it cut down thin like that, and then I just basically jammed the bit in there and put it in reverse, and it'll usually spin itself out. If it doesn't, then you just kind of chip away at it with a chisel or get a screwdriver in there that's really small, and once you get it that thin, it usually takes the fight out of it. But anyway, that's all stuff that I didn't want to get into today in this job, so this is all extra. And now we got our bearings from Rock Auto, which here's the part number. Do not order this particular brand or this bearing because it's the wrong part. These bearings are too small. So now I'm pissed off because I got a car on the hoist is tied up, the shop's tied up, and I don't have the right parts to finish the job. Which honestly doesn't happen very often, but anyway, it happened again. Last time with this car, we had the wrong brakes from Rock Auto, which we contacted them and they got it sorted out and have the right brakes on the market now. But now we're into a bit issue with the wheel bearings, so gonna have to go buy one local, and the other side's gonna have to go on hold until I know I have the proper parts in my hand, because I'm not tearing it apart until I do.
That's it.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, let's gear it up all over again.
So the bearing's pressed in, now we got to put our clip back in. And after we get that done, we're going to push our hub back in, spindle. Right there.
They're at least starting to go on the fuel.
Oh yeah.
I'll check it, that should be it.
Alright, so same thing going back together, only it's quite tricky actually. You got to get it on the strut first, then you got to put your axle in, then you got to pry down on this control arm, hold up on it and try to get your lower ball joint to start and seat in. Once that all happens, it does kind of click and bang right together, but make sure that you're all the way up to your strut bump and that you're in your notch in the back side so that this isn't free floating. You'll see what I mean when you do this job and take it apart yourself. There's a slot in the back of the strut that got to sit in. No, you don't got to do. We got her.
Oh, you already got it in?
Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
So we're all back together now, other than the tire. So we want new cotter pin on the tie rod. Make sure your lower ball joint's tight. Make sure your axle nut's tight. Make sure your brakes are all tight. Make sure when you get in the car before you move it that you pump your brakes up. I always just pry my calipers back with a screwdriver before doing work like this, so the caliper is retracted. The pedal will go to the floor, the first pump probably. So other than that, we don't have the sensors today, so I'm just going to leave the hole open, and when the sensors get here on Monday, I'll install them. But anyway, this is where we're at. The job is basically done. The broken bolt is out. It's going back together and going home. So there she is, back on the ground. Only got one side done, wanted to get them both done. But at least we had the right bearing the second time around. And this is what we got for a part number. So there's your front wheel bearing part number. And we're getting the sensors directly from the dealership for it, so make sure if you're doing this job you get both sensors and the bearing, because chances are you're going to ruin your sensor in the process of doing the bearing. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe. Anyone local, if you need a press, I can give her a try for you.